It's windy today. Hey, morning guys. When you get on, let me know who you are and where you're coming from. Good morning. I'm wondering if I'll be able to see you guys make your comments. Hopefully it's not too shaky. It's getting kind of windy here. Crap. Shit, let's do it this way. Morning, guys. Hey, George. Are you Brazilian or are you Spanish? So I'll make sure I say it right. Jorge. Morning, guys. How you doing? So I know it's a little bit early today. We're what about 9:20 Central Time. Got it, Jorge. And I'm about to get into a meeting here with regard to our new campus. We opened the new campus, by the way. We will, excuse me. June 1st is when we open it. In Flower Mound. We're actually just moving our campus. Most of you saw our campus that was in a gun range, and we're going to be moving that campus to our own studio. It's going to have suspension mats and all the kind of good stuff. It'll be a little smaller, but it'll be cool. And I'll also be going to go supervise one of my junior instructors teaching class at 11 Central. So I kind of want to get this out to you guys a little sooner. I actually did a video. I recorded a video of this yesterday. One of my normal car videos. I'm kind of thinking of it. Let me go and record it. But I didn't really like the way it came out, and also I'd rather have some interaction on this one as well. So what I wanted to cover today. Hey, go ahead and hit the thumbs up if you're on. I really appreciate that. Kind of helps us with the algorithms. Kind of gets our videos in front of more people, which we really appreciate. Thank you. Now, what I want to cover was Mat Etiquette. Now, I want to cover it from two sides. Both, thanks guys. Both from the student side and from the school owner's side. So, first of all, school owner's side. I as a school owner, and Professor Dave as a school owner, and he's really taught me this, and it's a matter of just being clean, just like with your gi. Being that there's a lot of close contact, we need to make sure that we're always clean. And just because I'm clean, if my mat's dirty, good morning, Giorgio. Just because I'm clean, my gi's clean, but my mat's dirty, what's the use? I might as well just be dirty too. And I've trained at dirty academies. I've trained at academies that were so bad that I've gotten a staph infection from training at that place. It was one day I just went and trained no gi, and I remember leaving the studio. I smelled so bad. I could smell myself on the drive home, and it was an hour drive home, and it sucked. And then it turned out I got staph infection. Hey Chris, the new location is going to be at 630 Parker Square in Flower Mound, and it's on Cross Timbers Boulevard, FM 1171. We'll be there from June 1st. And we'll actually be having a barbecue outside the back entrance of our studio on Sunday, June 3rd, starting at 12 noon. So if any of you want to come by, feel free. Anyway, going back to the staph infection that I got. Those of you who just joined us, please be sure to hit the like button. I really appreciate it. Thank you. In fact, I got a scar right here. It's a small one, but what happened was my whole arm here just kind of got really red and really hot. And I went to the doctor, and yeah, she had to cut me open, and yeah, it turns out it was a staph infection. And I got it from training at a place that had dirty mats. Another place that I went to, it was actually a friend of mine who was a brown belt at the time. He was teaching classes at an MMA studio, and they would do cardio kickbox classes on the mat in the morning. but they did it with their shoes on. And I went there with a nice, clean white gi, and when I left, that gi was brown. So, you know, for school owners, and let's say you're not, I mean, let's say the school that you're at has dirty mats. Take it upon yourself to clean the mats. Really, what does it take, right? Because you want to have clean mats, and if your studio is not going to keep their mats clean, and frankly, not everybody's clean. Not everybody's clean, so just take it upon yourself and make your, you know, help your studio out. Maybe your instructor is just too busy to mop the mats, but that's, to me, that's like, I'm not too busy to wash my gis. But anyway, because I was at one place where one of the students, he went and bought a sprayer, he went and bought some disinfectant, and he bought some mats, mops. And you want to use the types that you can take off and you can throw in the wash. Don't use those stringy mops. You know, for those of you who are old like me, you remember those mops. Something that even Swiffer wets, they're not bad, but they're not antibacterial. So you might want to spray some Lysol on that, Lysol disinfectant. Anyway, so as a school owner, make sure your mats are clean. Don't let people walk around barefoot off of the mat and then get onto the mat. That's just gross. You know, if you step off the mat, make sure you have some flip-flops. Where I'm from in Hawaii, we call them slippers. Or some people call them thongs. I never got that one. You know, to me, a thong is something else. Hey guys, for those of you just joining us, we're going over mat etiquette. I appreciate you joining us. Go ahead and hit the like button for me, please. I'd really appreciate that. And go ahead and shoot a comment through if you want. And also, say hi, tell me where you're calling from. So if you see my eyes go back and forth, that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of looking at the screen, trying to keep up with you guys. Yeah, make sure, and the other thing too is, hey Marcelo, one thing that, if you make sure your mats are clean, then you won't be spreading any staph, any MRSA, you know, that stuff is gross. Hey Kyle, and when you have clean mats, then you make a good experience for everyone. You know, to me, that's the first and most important part. If you guys want to flash through any questions, that's fine. If I don't acknowledge your question, that means I probably didn't see it because I'm too busy looking over here. Right? Got it. But I'll try to acknowledge your question right away. Chico, nice. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, like I said, so never go without putting flip-flops or footwear on when you go to the bathroom or when you walk around the club anywhere, because when you really think about it, you're putting your face on that mat. And would you put the bottom of somebody's foot after they stepped in the restroom onto your face? No, I know I wouldn't. So, and I'm kind of a germaphobe too, which kind of weird because why am I doing jiu-jitsu? I'm a germaphobe, but so I just try to keep it clean. You know, one thing that I used to see at a studio that I used to train at was they were a Taekwondo studio, and these kids would come after school, and a lot of times the moms or the dads would drop them off out on the parking lot, and the kids would come fully dressed in uniform, no footwear, run across the parking lot, walk into the studio on the floor, and step right on the mat. And the mats were really bad. And you know, at Kama Jiu-Jitsu, you know, we have the demographic that we tend to have at our school is you have a lot of people that have they have these gis, you know, like the bamboos and the hemp gis, and you know, those shoyo rolls, and you know, all these nice gis, and the gis would come out brown. And you know, that's really not the way I like to do things. So we really keep our gis clean, and our mats clean. So just make sure that you do it. And if your instructor doesn't do it, please do it for him. You know, make it good for everybody. And a lot of times, you know, if the instructor sees a student doing it, maybe he'll want to do it more. Now, as far as grappling, you know, there's mat etiquette for the students now. When we're training, you want to make sure. Hey guys that just joined us, go ahead and hit the like button for me, please, and let me know where you're watching from. Thank you guys. When you're training, mat etiquette. For one thing, make sure you go as hard as your partner wants to go. If you're training with a 50 or 60-year-old and you're a 25-year-old, don't be smashing the old guy, right? Or if you're a black belt, hey Lavernia, hey Texas again, love Texas. Woo. That's why I moved here. You guys should all come here if you haven't. If you're a higher level belt than your partner, you don't want to beat up on him. I mean, why? I mean, what does it gain? Hey Mac, when you coming back? We miss you guys. We miss you out here. So come visit us soon again, Mac. Hey Roger, Orange County, California. Why aren't you at our Irvine studio? I'm just messing with you. Don't worry. Nice, Canada. Got you guys from all over the world. You know, one thing, when you're an upper belt and you're training with a lower belt, you know, give them some space. You know, you let them play around a little bit, because, you know, let's say you know that you can beat them with 50% of your energy or 50% of your techniques. Why would you smash the guy, right? Just because it feels good? Well, here's what I tell our students. If you know you can beat a guy, and you've beat him already before several times, then just go ahead and let him do what he wants to do, or handicap yourself. You know, one thing that Rickson and Dave would often do is they would, hey Brian, what they would often do is they would just simply put a hand in their belt or something and do it that way. Now, for those of you who are lower belts, don't get butt hurt when a guy puts his hand in your belt. Hey Corey, hey, good seeing you on the channel. Corey just visited us as well, so both Mac and Corey paid us visits, and great people. Any of you want to come, just let me know. Hey Tony. So, like I said, don't get butthurt if a guy puts his hand in his gi. If you smash him because he put his hand away, then that's fine. You know, on the other hand, don't get upset when he does it. He's just trying to make it so that you can both have a competitive match. And if him putting one hand away helps you have a competitive match, then fine. You know, go for it. Another thing is that, I don't know if it happens with you guys, but it happened with me a lot, where let's say you just kind of do an informal training session, you know, just some guys getting together at the studio, it's not a class time or whatever, and they say, hey man, I'm still kind of tight, I haven't really warmed up yet, so let's go light, let's go light. Okay, and you know, you slap hands, and next thing you know, this guy goes 100% and ends up catching you, and maybe even hurts you because you were thinking, I'm gonna go light, so I'm not necessarily being tight myself and protecting myself like I normally would, because I didn't expect him to go hard on me, and maybe he pops my arm. That's kind of a dick move. I don't know if any of you have been through that. I've never gotten injured on it, because I've been doing this long enough to know that when somebody says let's go light, you know, you want to trust but verify, right? Because a lot of guys, they don't know what light is. Another thing too is, let's say you train with a guy who's just hey, Paris, France, awesome. Buffalo, great. Is it still cold in Buffalo by now? No, it's already May. It should be warm by now, right? Yeah, you know, just I've been around long enough to know that you know, you have some guys that are just super strong, but to them going 50% is still really strong. So like I say, trust but verify. So you need to protect yourself. One of the things that 50, dang, that's cold in Buffalo. It's like 75 right here in Flower Mound, Texas. By the way, for all of you guys that are joining us, please do me a favor and hit that like button. I really appreciate it. It helps get our video a little more views from YouTube when they refer us. Thank you. And you know, if any of you guys have any kind of stories on mat etiquette or questions, let me know, and I can see if I can get to it. Oh, another thing is, now when you're in a class, every school may have their rules on what the etiquette is. For instance, I know some schools would say, hey Faraz, coming from London, right? Awesome. One day I hope to make it out there. You guys are also nice out there. At least, well, that's my stereotype of people in the UK. So, you guys are nicer than Americans. Nah, kidding. What was I talking about now? Remind me. Dang it. Senior moment here. Oh, when you're in class. Don't talk when your instructor is talking. because it not only takes away from what the instructor's trying to teach, the person you're talking to is also going to miss what the instructor's teaching. So you may not care if you miss it, but think about your co-member as well. What else? Oh, when the instructor says to do the lesson, just do the lesson and keep doing it until they say stop. One thing that often happens with us, at least with the high school kids especially, is if I tell them to do something 5 times left, 5 times right, they'll take me literally and do it 5 times left, 5 times right, and stop, and then try to go grab their phone and check their text messages or anything like that. Whereas the paying adult members, they keep going until I stop them. So a lot of times, I say 5 left, 5 right. They might have done 15 left, 15 right. Get rungs, square interlocking mats. Oh, okay. So are those the black rubber ones? So one of the comments came on that they use the square interlocking mats, and that may be why it's you can't maybe clean. But you know, they do capoeira. So if any of you've seen capoeira, that's another Brazilian martial art. It's pretty badass. Something that I wish I could do, but I can't bring my leg up this high. So just keep going, you know, just for the sake of keeping the flow of your instruction going. Just keep going until your instructor says to stop and do something else, or they may give you an idea. Here's one story that was really poor mat etiquette, and this is when I was still in California at Professor Dave's Laguna Niguel campus, and there was a former student of his that came by for a visit. He left Dave probably as a blue belt maybe, and I think he was chasing a belt. So he went to another school, and a few years later came back as a black belt. And I'd never met him before that, but I learned that he had been in the campus prior to me. I was a brown belt, he was a black belt by then, and he was my size. Seemed like a nice enough guy at first, and then when Dave was teaching, you know, that thing about, you know, don't be talking to anybody. What this guy did was even worse. What he did was actually pulled aside 2 or 3 guys from the class. And think about it. Professor Dave's Laguna Niguel Academy, back when it was Hicks and Gracie Laguna Niguel, was not a big campus. We might have had 7 or 8 members in the campus total. You know, forget Dave, but you know, as far as counting, you know, but there's about 7 people on a good night that would be in classes. So this guy, who was a black belt from another school, former student of Dave's, came back, pulled some people on the side, and was showing an alternate technique that it wasn't what Dave was going over, and he just like one of those, hey bro, come over here, come here, let me show you this pretty cool shit that I'm doing. And I just remember looking at Dave and going, and just and Dave just goes, just forget him, as if to say, you know what, he's like that. You know, for those of you who haven't met Dave Kama, he's like the nicest guy. You wouldn't get that from that Gracie challenge. Yeah, it was Marcelo. It was pretty disrespectful. But and which is why it pissed me off, because Dave is my instructor, and I don't like to see anybody showing outright disrespect for him. So what happened was, after we were done with the class, hey Downey, hey Ed. I used to live not far from there in Whittier. Actually, I was Hacienda Heights, but you know, what is it? Hacienda Heights, Whittier, Norwalk, Downey? I don't know, it's pretty close. Anyway, just remembering my California days. Hey, those of you who just joined us, once again, please go ahead and hit the like button for us. It helps helps us with the YouTube algorithms. I really appreciate that. And when you jump on, you know, give me a shout out. Let me know where you're viewing us from. So anyway, this particular black belt, you know, kind of a disrespectful thing, you know, trying to show his knowledge. And the way I see it, in the end, he's an insecure person, very small guy like me, very much got that. Hey, Philippines. My wife's from the Philippines, and I'm a 15-year-old, 2-month white belt, 815 class. How can I roll with 8-year-olds who are just as new? Well, you want to be gentle with 8-year-olds when you roll them. You don't want to hurt them, especially when you're 15. I don't know how big you are. So this particular guy, pretty insecure, And because he wanted to, a lot of people, when they feel insecure, what they want to do is they want to try to show you. So no, my wife's not in the Philippines. My wife is from the Philippines. She was born in Quezon City, Waterbury, Connecticut. Looking for a real school. What does real school mean? There's a lot of good schools in the area. I don't know of any offhand, but you know, go visit a few schools and you'll figure them out right away. I mean, but you know, I'll let you know that they're all nice. Norway, awesome. Hey Salim, I'm doing well. Thank you. And so going back to this this black belt that was an insecure guy. Eventually, once we're done with the drilling part, and once Dave finished teaching what he wanted to teach, then we would kind of line up and would start training. And so my goal was to try to smash this guy, right? Because I didn't like what he was doing. Hey, good morning, guys. Corpus Christi and Pueblo West, Colorado. So what we did was we started training, and he ended up in my guard, and I sunk a choke in, and it was pretty deep. And 707. Don't know where that is. Where is 707? Anyway, so I sunk that choke in, but I hadn't quite gotten to the point of making him tap yet. And he just starts tapping me right away, and then when I kind of look and I let it go, and he goes, hey, which is another part of mat etiquette. Now, here's one thing you don't do as well. Let's say you're getting your ass kicked, and let's say, okay, NorCal, 707, got it, thank you. Professor Dave's from NorCal, by the way, Sacramento. If you're an upper belt, and somebody gets something on you, and you're like, oh shit, I didn't mean to let you have that, or holy shit, this guy is really good, and he starts getting you, but he's a lower belt than you, don't stop him and tell him, hey bro, let me show you something cool. You know, if you had put your arm here, and you had put me, and you moved me over here, then, oh, you would have tapped me for sure. It's like, no shit, I would have tapped you anyway, right? So that guy really irked me. But yeah, so if you're the upper belt, or you're the guy that you think you're better, don't stop a guy in the training to tell him, to show him something cool, right? That's bullshit. He knows he got you. You know you got caught. Just tap and move on. Just like somebody just said, and I appreciate you saying that. I'm sorry, I just saw the comment. I didn't see your name. But yeah, it's very bad etiquette for you to stop somebody right as they're getting you. Here's another one, another bad etiquette. When you're training with somebody, and let's say me, 50 years old, okay? And I'm training with a purple belt. Maybe he's, I don't know, maybe he's younger than me, and he's got a gas tank that's, you know, a 50-gallon tank versus my 5-gallon tank. Hey, Justin. Hey, thanks for the good comments. I appreciate it. Now, you know, let's say I'm just getting all I can handle from a kid who's just got a gas tank so deep that I've run out of gas. I've got nothing left, and he's just all over me. Can't tap me, but he's all over me. And you know, what I don't want to do is, let's say he's cross-eyed on me and he's just smashing the shit out of me, and I can't win. I can't, you know, I would get out, go to guard. He would pass my guard, get back into cross-side again. Hey, Gil, good luck with that. And he's going to be competing soon. Grand Rapids, Michigan. All right. So here's what is bad etiquette is, when he's got cross-eyed on me and he hasn't tried to submit me yet, I just go and tap from the bottom, right? I'm defending, and I'm just tired of defending, and I can't defend anymore, so I just tap from the bottom. What is that? You know? Or if I just maybe not even tap, I just say, bro, I can't go anymore, I'm tired. So what, right? You know, maybe his whole intent was to tire me out so he could tap me. Well, I tired out, and I didn't want to submit to him because he's only a purple belt, let's say, and I've got a big ego. So I'm going to just say, man, I'm tired. But, you know, if I weren't tired, I'd have kicked your ass. Like, no, I'm tired. Go ahead and tap me, right? You know, go ahead and set that arm bar up, set that choke, tap me out, right? You know, it's not embarrassing for me if somebody taps me out. It's like, what the heck? I mean, everybody gets tapped out, right? You know, and that's one thing too. You know, a lot of people don't want to get tapped because they don't like losing. Well, newsflash, nobody likes losing, right? But the thing is, though, you're not really losing if you tap. What you're doing is you're learning what the hell you did wrong, right? It could be where maybe I let this guy have too much for too long, right? And I thought I could kind of meter my energy out to the point where if I just let him crawl all over me for the first 5 minutes, I'll be able to catch him in minute 6. Well, what happened was he's got a really heavy game and he can smash me. So what's the way to make sure your professor is legitimate, big dog? So, you know, it was a strategy thing on my part that I messed up, in that I should have just gone after the guy to begin with. But a way to do it would be for me to get on top of him, perhaps. Let me get in a dominant position. Let me pass his guard, get the cross side, and if I'm done, I can then tap him and say, you know what, I'm done, right? At least I waited till I got on top of him and got to a good position before I tapped him. So, any tips for last minute stress before competing? Just compete. I mean, somebody just asked a question about he's going to be competing soon. And, the thing is, you just have to just compete. Try to untie my belt and choke my neck with it. So when somebody is saying that somebody tried to untie their belt and try to choke them with it. Funny story about that was Grandmaster Helson, when I was at his school in the late 80s, early 90s, I remember him playing with somebody, and he was probably in CASA with him, and the student was looking away. What kind of advice do you want, Nicholas? And the student was looking away, and Helson untied his own belt and slowly wrapped it around the other guy's neck. But he did it, with a big smile on his face and looking around, making sure we're all watching. And it was kind of hilarious, him doing that. But, so is that bad mat etiquette? I don't know. Grandmaster Helson, he can do whatever he wants. But, it was just part of having fun. So, yeah, if you're getting your ass kicked, just submit to a submission, right? Don't stop because you're tired. If you're able to get into a good position, if you want to stop then I think it's okay to stop then. Some people would say, no, you keep going whether you get tapped or not. When am I coming to New York City? I don't know. When are you guys inviting me? I don't get... Man, these comments come a little pertinent. Best ways to practice weight distribution on bigger opponents. Well, you have to understand the concepts of weight distribution first. Dave taught it to me, so I can do it. But let me answer that question about if you have competition jitters. I've since long retired from competition, but what I used to do is I noticed that when I was in the studio, I would always have a certain routine. And what my routine was I would always kick my legs over my head, and I would kind of stretch the back of my neck here, because I'd always get stacked, being a little guy and everybody doing the Elio guard pass on me and doing it pretty well, putting my knee to my forehead and all that, they're always stacking me. And so what happened was I would tear the muscles in the back of my upper back for a while. So what I would do is I just routinely go and stretch. Well, when I was competing, what I would do is to get myself in that mindset that it's just a training seminar. We could do a seminar in New York City, yeah. If you wanna get some ideas across to us, by all means, email us, commentjujitsu@gmail.com. And Dave would love to go to New York, by the way. We haven't been yet, but yeah, maybe we could set one up, get a few schools involved, make it easy on everybody. But what I would do is I would roll on the back, and then so when I get on the mat to compete, that's the very first thing I would do. I'd walk onto the mat, and to get my mind into that it's just another training session, I would just flip over, roll my legs over, my feet over my head, and it would just be me coming across, meeting somebody on the mat who I've never seen before. But to me, I had already made my mind feel that it was just a simple training session. And when that happened, no nervousness whatsoever. I didn't mess up. I didn't mess up. I'd lose. I'd win, I'd lose some. But I didn't I didn't make any mistakes in my mind. If I got beat, the guy was just better than me. But it wasn't because I turned the wrong way. I would turn the correct way, for instance, but maybe the guy was just, like I said, better than me. Those of you just joining us, go ahead and hit the like button for us. I really appreciate it. It helps us with the algorithms, like I said again. What other questions so any advice for a new blue belt? if you're a new blue belt, just keep doing what you're doing, but just know that, so I don't know how every school does it, but for our school, in fact, I was just telling one of my blue belts this yesterday morning in a private, my pleasure, Christopher. When you're in white belt, it's all about learning the curriculum up to that point. There's no interpretation of it, you just do it. But when you get to blue belt, that's when you start to kind of let your mind kind of work a little bit and take what you know and start to expand upon it. Now, a lot of people like to criticize us because we're very strict on what we like to expand upon. So let's say, for instance, half guard, that's a brand new blue belt thing, you know, half guard play, half guard pass, T-sweeps, we start to introduce some basic foot locks. But really, what it comes down to is expanding what you've already learned in white belt. And because what I want you to do is I want you to get better at what you learn. It's not a matter of, you know, and a lot of people mistake this, is they see a white belt class or a fundamentals class, they see it as a white belt class only. But that's not true. That's just the concepts that you learn in white belt. But that doesn't mean you don't do them for the rest of your jiu-jitsu journey. And that also doesn't mean that you don't keep practicing them. Because every time, for instance, Dave does a really basic concept, something else pops up. It's like, holy crap, I didn't know that. And shit, I've been doing this for how long now, right? And every time you do it, you pick something new up. So a blue belt needs to go back over what they learned as a white belt, learn it deeper, you know, get a better understanding of it, and then learn a few more concepts. You don't leave behind what you already learned and say it's just basic, so therefore that's only for beginners. No. I mean, think about this. How many of you seen RICKSON demonstrating the UPA escape? And these black belts can't do it, right? Why can't they do it? Because they learned it as a white belt and they moved on from it. They never continued on with it to make it better and better and better. And what happens is they're so trying to, and I'm not saying they, I mean just everybody in general, it's human nature. You're so trying to fill your brain up with new knowledge, but you really haven't conquered the old knowledge. So what we make sure is that the old knowledge, really the first knowledge we teach you, is the most important things to learn. All the stuff that you learn later on, in our opinion, is not as important as what you learn early on. So if the early on stuff is important, you not only learn it first, you learn it repeatedly. So a blue belt isn't measured by how much you know, it's how well you know what you learned in white belt. And same thing with purple belt. You know, purple belt should be better than a blue belt, should be able to execute better than a blue belt, brown versus purple, so on and so forth. Yeah, so that's where I am with regard to the blue belt. So don't try to force yourself to take on new information. You know, I'll give you a quick example here. So, you know, look at my fingers here, right? So I've got 8 fingers here. Let's say you want to learn something new, but really all you've got capacity for is 8 different concepts. Well, what happens when I teach you a new concept when you're not ready to expand yet? You know, 9 goes right back to 8. So you still only have 8, but what you did was you pushed out something early on. And if you learn another concept, guess what? You're still gonna have only 8. What you need to do is you need to understand the technique deeper for you to retain it and then move on. So what'll happen is, when you're a very beginner, you might learn 2 concepts and you'll be perfectly, my pleasure, Joseph. Yeah, Texas is beautiful today. Hockey not like Texas, right? So when you're learning new things, let's say as a white belt, you learn the first 2 concepts. Go over and over and over them. But what I don't do is I don't teach you 3, because if I teach you 3, guess what? You're gonna forget all 3 that I teach you. You're gonna have nothing. You're gonna remember that I taught it to you, but you won't remember how to do it. So what you do is, yeah, Roger Gracie's awesome. You know, it's funny, you know, Ed just comes out and says he loves the basics. And, you know, the thing is, everybody seems to think that, okay, JP, I'll get to that question in a second. What everybody's looking for is they're looking for the newest, greatest thing. But really, a lot of times, that newest, greatest thing is really built on a basic concept. So if you understand that basic concept, you can easily do that advanced technique, or you can counter it, right? You know, going back to the UPA escape, a lot of people can't do it. You know, they stop doing it when they get the blue belt, because why? When I try to UPA a guy puts his hand on the mat and he bases, and I can't do it anymore, so they go, oh, well, that doesn't work when you get to blue belt. That's bullshit. No. Black belts can do it to anybody. You know, black belt who understands it. You know, a black belt who doesn't understand it, it's because they got their black belt just learning more and more and more. So, so going back to the beginner on the early one, when I teach you 2 concepts, you know, I'll teach you a 3rd later on when I know you can absorb it. Anyway, guys, I've got my appointment coming in. So, is it 10 o'clock already? Oh, okay. Sorry, and man, I'm sorry. I got distracted here, so she came half an hour early. What you want to do is, what's going to happen is your ability to hold knowledge will expand as time goes on. So just be patient with that. Once you understand a concept completely, then what will happen is you'll be able to pick something up new, because then it'll be in your central nervous system, as we say, right? But if it's in your mind and you have to think about it, you don't have it yet. So don't try to keep forcing new stuff in there, because you're just going to push the old stuff out. And the old stuff is the most important stuff, right? So remember, for those of you who are at schools and you're taking advanced classes, go back to the fundamentals classes every so often, right? I would say at least maybe if you go 3 sessions a week, which a lot of people do, make one of those sessions a fundamental session or a beginner session. Go back and revisit that. And then the remaining 2, go to the advanced. Or if you can go on a day where they'll have both beginner and advanced, then make sure that you make some time to do both classes at least once a week, and then just do the advanced class for your other days. Because the biggest mistake you're going to make in jiu-jitsu is to forget your basics, forget your foundation, right? Think about a house. With no foundation, is that house going to be standing? No, the house will blow away. So make sure that your foundation is always being taken care of, right? Here in Texas, you know, we have soil that shifts, which means that, you know, and when I was in California, it's earthquakes, right? In Hawaii, it's hurricanes, same with Florida. But in Texas, it's shifting soil. So what happens is the dirt under your house will kind of sink to different levels. Well, a lot of that, it doesn't happen if you maintain your foundation by, I kind of missed that one, sorry. Something about being outside of class. What you need to do is keep watering your foundation. So make sure that water keeps going there so your soil stays full. Hey, Brian. Brian at Gator Pit. Say hi to Brian at Gator Pit. And by doing that, your house will stay level. So you're taking care of your foundation. And because of that, then the rest of your house is fine. So with jiu-jitsu, take care of your foundation and the rest of your jiu-jitsu will be fine. Don't be in a race to get new information all the time, because sometimes you haven't learned all of the old information. So you want to get all of it. And just think about how RICKSON is. RICKSON never learned Berimbolo. He never learned, and neither did Crone, actually, by the way. But that stuff doesn't really work on him. Everybody keeps asking me what's my opinion on 10th Planet. And Christopher, so I really don't know. I don't know Eddie Bravo. I know that he does stuff a little bit differently. His jiu-jitsu is not Jean-Jacques jiu-jitsu. It's different. Well, it's kind of developed that way. It's morphed that way. Yeah, as far as 10th Planet, you know, I don't know. And I really can't speak about any other school's jiu-jitsu other than what I've been through. And even if you talk about an affiliation, let's talk about 10th Planet since we're talking about it. Let's say I go into one 10th Planet school, they might have a different style. I go to another 10th Planet school, they might have another style completely different. Why is that? Well, a lot of times an affiliate academy, the owner of the school who chose to affiliate with that particular group might have gotten his black belt from a completely different affiliation, right? But maybe because they had a bad relationship or something went bad, this black belt took his school away from that former affiliation and then went to a new affiliation, and maybe the historical style is completely different. All right, so now one of you had asked, what do I do to prepare a white belt for promotion? Well, I can only say from Combat Jiu-Jitsu. So what we do is we have a curriculum, and I need to make sure that you know the curriculum. Now, do you need to know it to the level that a true blue belt knows it? You know, meaning somebody who's deep into blue belt? No, because they'd have studied it longer and they know it better than you. But that's what happens when you're into blue belt. Now, getting up to blue belt, you have to know it to my satisfaction. So what'll happen is I have a bunch of junior instructors that all help me, and whenever somebody's up for promotion, I never tell them, by the way. It's just in my mind. The reason why I never tell them is because there have been times where I have somebody who is up for promotion in my mind, and they either stop coming, or for some reason their jiu-jitsu just starts to slip. So I need to get them back up to the level that I want them to be. So what I'll do is I'll get all the instructors. Okay, so somebody just kind of educated me on Eddie Bravo and what he's trying to do. With regard to the white belt, what I want to do is I want to make sure that he is up to speed on the curriculum. That's number one. Sometimes I may have, that's the objective criteria. Sometimes I may have subjective criteria that I want them to meet as well. Maybe if it's for a big, strong guy, I need him to be able to play looser, right? Because I don't want him, for those of you who know our video about G equals P plus T, you know, that's what we call the secret formula of jiu-jitsu. If you don't know about it, go and check it out. It kind of explains how we kind of match everybody up. So let's say somebody is very strong, they have a very high P. What I need to do is I need for him to grow his T, his technique. So what I'll do is I'll tell him, you know, dial down on the strength, right? Don't be so strong. I know you're 250, 260, and I know you can power lift 700 pounds. You can squat 700 pounds, but I don't need you doing that in jiu-jitsu. So I need you to use your technique. So what I'll do is maybe for that person, I'll have another criteria for them is I need to see that they can be comfortable rolling and not be using all that power behind them. You know, I always tell people power is good, but add the power back in deep in the purple belt. Because when you're deep in the purple belt, your technique should be dialed in by then, right? You know, white belt is about learning basics. Blue belt is about learning some additional stuff and getting the basics better. Purple belt is about getting the basics better, but developing your, I guess, all your different techniques and getting really good at them. Brown belt is about developing your game, right? When I'm here, here's the path I'm going to get to my submission. When I'm there, here's the path I'm going to get to submission, right? That's your brown belt. Black belt is when everything is dialed up, tied up in a bow, and your feels that he feels you're ready, you know, for his subjective things, right? So remember, MacLeod Gracie had that list of 20 things that were all subjective, you know, based on what he felt, right? It could be from you clipping your fingernails or showing up on time and coming with a clean gi, you know, just basic things, right? And for him, that was what made you over the top from brown belt to black belt. Because a lot of times you got brown belts that are better than black belts, but they just haven't had that one subjective thing that they fulfilled to earn the black belt. So, you know, for me, the subjective thing from white to blue, it could be maybe you're 20 pounds overweight and I want you to lose weight. You know, if you lose weight, then boom, you're done. It could be, like I said, you're too strong. Or let's say you're smaller and maybe you give up a lot. So I need you to tough it out a little bit more. You know, push past your current block and get past it and be more successful in that way. You know, so a long answer to your question about being able to, you know, what do I do to set people up for blue belt? That was it. So this video is getting a little long, and I appreciate all of you sticking by, and you know, my pleasure, JP. So if you have any last questions, I'd be happy to shoot an answer for it. But otherwise, sorry, saying wait. Okay. Thanks, David. I appreciate that. Great comment. Hey, Eric. Am I going to see you in class today? I'm going to be heading out there. David's going to teach it today. Anyway, I appreciate your guys' time, and I appreciate your subscribing and checking everything out with us. Yeah, I have gone skydiving, Ed. I did it once. Believe it or not, I almost chickened out. I was going back to Hawaii. I went to skydive Hawaii, and my mom, who was still in Hawaii at the time, said she wanted to go skydiving. and I think I was, I don't know, I might have been 30. So my wife was 20 years old. She's 50. She's my age right now. And do more Halls Gracie videos. I don't really have any more information on Halls, but at least not new information. Thanks, Michael. So with regard to skydiving, my mom said, hey, I want to go skydiving. So I'm like, okay, I'll go with you, Mom. And maybe a week or two before the trip, I started chicking out. And I called my mom, and I was trying to see if my mom had changed her mind. But she says, no, I'm so excited, Ryan. When you get here, we're going to go skydiving. I want to do that so badly. I'm like, oh, shit. I didn't want to tell her that I was shitting a brick. So what I did was I watched that Wesley Snipes movie. What movie was that? Anyway, it's a Wesley Snipes movie, if I remember right. And that movie, I had to watch that movie like 2 or 3 times to psych me up for it. Anyway, so I ended up doing it, and it was great. But it was one of those things where I did Drop Zone. That's it. So thanks, Eric. So I watched Drop Zone, I got psyched up, and then I ended up doing it with my mom, my best friend, 2 of my best friends actually, and it was great, you know. Yeah, I liked that part once the chute went open, how quiet it was, you know, one of the most peaceful times I've ever experienced. You know, once we landed and got it done, it was one of those things I just checked off the list, just like when I went whitewater rafting, I checked that off too, and then had no more desire to do it after that. But yeah, if you haven't tried skydiving, you know, go ahead and try it. Just make sure you don't have a family yet, just in case. Anyway, guys, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon. And I think one more time for the channel and my gi. Oh, wait. You want me to wear a gi? I just have these new shirts here, the new Kama Jiu-Jitsu shirts. My pleasure, Jorge. We have. I think Rusty's dropping a video today, so I don't know if it'll be as good as this one though. Anyway, we'll talk to you guys soon. Take care now. Happy training. Bye bye.